Hey everyone, so today I want to share with you how we were able to get to over $250,000 before we got to 30. Now, I say we because my wife and I actually combine all of our assets together as well as our liabilities. And that is definitely something to keep in note when we're going over this, is that this is everything combined from both of us. Depending on who you are and if you have a spouse or a significant other, you may or may not want to combine your finances and or your net worth. Totally okay, but we're gonna go based off of us combining our stuff together. So I'm gonna talk about how much we've made in every single piece of asset that we have, as well as our liability, and some of the things that got us to those positions in the first place. So we're gonna jump into that, but if by any chance this is your first video with us, my name is Dennis, and on this channel we love talking about ways to build wealth and become more financially free. So make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, and we're gonna go ahead and jump right into the topic. And make sure you are sticking around because towards the end I'm gonna share with you how you can actually improve your net worth over time. Just a couple simple things that can really change your net worth significantly. So there are tons of articles out on the web where they talk about how much net worth you should have by a certain age group. And so I just wanted to share our position and where we are and how we got there. I think it's interesting though, because even though those age groups kind of just help get you an idea of where you should be, I know sometimes it can sound very discouraging if you're nowhere near it. Just keep in mind that if you are educating yourself and putting yourself forth in learning about personal finance, that you can overcome whatever gap you might be in at your current age group. So keep working at it, keep learning, and you will definitely surpass where you should be by that next age group. And when we're talking about net worth, just to be very clear, net worth is where you take your assets and you minus them with your liabilities. And assets can be determined by every person just a little bit differently. One example that I personally know some people kind of give me a little bit of a hard time with is that I count cars in my net worth, mostly because our cars are paid off, so we don't have any debts or liabilities to those. But if you don't count cars as your net worth, that's totally fine. I don't hold anything against you on that front. But of course, we always want to be looking at things that are bringing us value or can bring us value if we were to sell them. Sometimes people kind of go a little bit on the deep end, including all of their stuff in their homes and whatnot. But we're going with just kind of like the big items here on our net worth. So let's go over everything that we have in our assets and our liabilities, and then I'm gonna break them down how we got to these positions. So the first one that we have, of course, in our asset category is our biggest one, and that is our home. Now for us, we actually don't have a mortgage on our home. So the value of our home is our full asset. And right now it is valued around $215,000. So it does make up a bulk of our actual net worth, but I want to break a few things down and how it got to this position. When I first got this house, actually, I bought it for a really ridiculously low price. Back in the 2008 housing crisis and everything else, houses of course went down in value. Arizona got hit pretty hard here, and it kind of hit rock bottom around 2011. And that's actually around the time I was able to get this house. So much so that I was able to pay cash for this house. So a lot of people look at me really strangely when I tell them that I paid cash for my house. Now, the way I was able to do that was by being very intentional and determined when it comes to being able to put money away. So I knew what I wanted to save that money for, which was a really good down payment, and I just so happened to have been having the opportunity to buy it in cash instead of a great down payment. I like to say that good luck is opportunity meets hard work. So it wasn't just a good coincidence that I was able to buy the house in cash. It was a whole system of situations where I was intentionally putting money away. I was intentionally looking for really good deals when it came to finding a good house. I think we looked over like 40 to 70 homes, something crazy like that, before we found this house. Now, we did have to do a lot of remodeling, which cost us a decent amount of money, but that is all paid off as well. Now, the home definitely went up quite a bit in value from what I paid and what I remodeled. So there is a ton of equity in this house if I wanted to pull that money out. Now, I do understand that there's fees and costs to being able to, pull money out for equity or even to sell this house. So I do kind of keep that in mind when that comes out to the value of the home. But as I mentioned, it is valued around $215,000. So once again, makes up the bulk of the actual net worth that we have. But I'm really happy to know that a lot of that was from the growth and the actual hard work that went in at the front end of trying to find this good deal. So next up on this list is actually our cars. Now, I mentioned some people don't consider cars as part of their net worth or even their assets because cars tend to go down in value. And while that might be true, they still hold value at some point. So if I wanted to sell our cars today, I can actually sell them and make a profit because I don't actually owe anything on them. So for both of our cars combined, my wife and I, we have about $6,500 in car value. Now, it's not a ton in car value because we don't put a lot of value in our cars personally. We prefer to put our value towards other things in our lives, but that's still enough for us to be able to sell and use it towards something else if we absolutely need it. Now, we can always upgrade cars later, and if we wanted to, we can even have them on loans, which would then increase our liabilities and, of course, decrease our assets there. So we have $6,500 in assets for our vehicles, and that is both of ours combined. So next up is going to be my personal IRA account. Now, it's currently sitting around $42,000. This started off at $0, and I started adding money into a company 401k the moment I was allowed to. I put quite a bit more than what the minimum amount was for matching because I wanted to grow my money. Tons of times I had people tell me, hey, invest as much as you can being young. And I saw tons of those articles where if you invest early on, how much it can actually grow in compound interest versus somebody that starts years and years later. So I was really intrigued with adding as much money as I possibly could into my retirement. Once I left that job, I actually rolled over my money into a Vanguard IRA account. Now that way it gave me more control to be able to invest my money the way I personally wanted to, which actually helped it grow quite significantly higher than where it would have been just with that 401k. So sitting around $42,000, quite a decent amount of that was actually growth as of temporarily we stopped investing into the retirement accounts while we invested into businesses. Now, for me personally, I am a big fan of paying attention to how my money is invested with my retirement, so that way I can grow it as quickly as possible and continue to earn more and more as it compounds every single year. If you're getting some value out of this video so far, make sure you go down and hit that like button below. And while you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know, how are you doing with your net worth so far? Are you happy with where you're at for your age? Or are you needing to work just a little bit harder so that way you can catch up? I want to hear from you in the community down below. So next up is going to be my wife's IRA account. Now this one, she definitely started quite a bit after me, so it's sitting around $5,500 and it's growing slowly over time. Now we do tend to start adding more to it over time, so that way she can catch up and start having more compound every single year. But as of right now, in our net worth for our assets, it's sitting at that $5,500. So next up is actually our personal investments. Now, our IRAs, of course, are investments as well, but those aren't things that we can actually utilize today. We have to wait till retirement. So we have a little bit of money invested in things such as Robinhood, M1 Finance, and then another brokerage account with E-Trade. Now, all of these combined have a total of about $1,050. And it grows very slowly, nothing too crazy, but it is there for us and we can cash out if we ever wanted to. So the next asset that we have is actually our cash reserves. It's around $4,500. This is money that we have sitting in our accounts for multiple different reasons. Consider it like a sinking fund. We have an emergency fund, a car fund for future car purchase, we have like a Christmas fund and some other types of funds that house our actual money that we physically have. Now this of course is very liquid, but since it's sitting in accounts, we can utilize it for anything we want. So I still count it as part of our asset category, which again is around $4,500. So that brings our total asset to $277,555. I had it written down because I didn't want to get it wrong there. So that is around where our assets stand. Now, as I mentioned, to get our full net worth, we also had to take away our liabilities from our assets, because that is the proper way to actually find out what your net worth is. So when we take our assets and minus them towards our liabilities, we have one major liability, and that is currently our student loans. Now, our student loans equal out to about $23,000. So if we take our assets and minus them from our liabilities, we get $251,550 in total net worth, which is $250,000. It sounds really strange to say that we have a net worth at that level, especially considering that we are under 30 years old. Now, of course, that took a lot of work and a lot of dedication, and there's a lot more to go on forward for us to continue to hit more goals for ourselves. Now, depending on where you are with your net worth, there might be some room for improvement, and there might be some opportunities for the future to improve that even more. So how do you actually improve your net worth, especially if maybe you're in a situation where your net worth isn't where you want it to be? Well, of course, there is the opportunity to raise your assets and lower your liabilities. Lowering your liabilities is pretty easy. All you have to make sure you're doing is paying down your debts. The faster you can pay down your debts, the better your net worth is going to grow. And then if you look at the asset category, you look at things that can bring you value over time. So if you spend money on things that are assets versus liabilities, that will greatly improve your net worth. Look at things such as investments, rental properties, or other means to improve your assets. You can do this in very simple forms, but if you don't take any action, you won't see an improvement with your net worth. So there are tons of other ways to continue to improve your asset category. Another great way is with your actual retirement account. There is actually ways that you can be earning money by doing almost absolutely nothing. Check out my video right over here where I break that down entirely for you. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel here today, and I'll see you in the next video.